So I should be sharing my screen now. Yeah, it looks like I am. So I'm going to be talking about mindfulness in politics and public policy. And then if I have time, I'm also going to be talking about our most recent work, looking at how mindfulness might particularly help us to meet the crises, the challenges of our times that relate to how complex our world is. And I'll also cover the belonging and loneliness as well. So. Very quickly. Mindfulness training has been running in the British Parliament since 2013. Almost 300 members of Parliament have taken some part in an 8-week mindfulness course. And on that course, they will learn two main things. Firstly, learning how to sort of like train their own minds to be able to attend to what they want to attend to with particular qualities of awareness, like openness, curiosity, and care. The definition we use here is that mindfulness is a natural human capacity. So it's often thought of as being a practice or a training course you can go on. But probably the best way to think about it is a natural thing like our ability to learn language, or a natural thing which needs to be cultivated and trained to bring out its full potential. So mindfulness is a human capacity that enables people to attend intentionally to the present moment experience inside themselves as well as in their environment with particular attitudes of openness, curiosity, and care. And so this has been the study of a lot of scientific research. There's more than 3 academic papers coming out every day, and there's now over 6,000 journal articles on the subject, particularly in the last few years. And those articles are showing that mindfulness training seems to help develop cognitive skills like memory and attention regulation, improve decision making, reduce biases which interfere with our decision making, and improve our emotional self-regulation, and improve things like empathy and compassion, and reduces stress, anxiety, depressive symptoms, and helps us to deal with addiction. Now, a lot of that is quite emerging early science. The strongest evidence is around reduction in stress and reduction in anxiety and depression. And so the politicians I work with themselves found some of the benefits of this. Here, one MP saying he was one of those who've been on the course. He found it transformative. These are gifts of the mind and the body. And he thinks that this should all be taught to children in school. Another member of Parliament, a parliamentarian, a member of the House of Lords in the United Kingdom, said that it is a very great help. Mindfulness is a very great help to my focus, my energy, my perspective, my sense of proportion and balance. So that word perspective keeps coming in. Politicians find it very helpful for them to keep things in perspective and take different perspectives from different people. And so this personal benefit they received inspired politicians to inquire into how mindfulness could be applied in different areas of public policy. So in 2014, 2015, we helped. I was one of the volunteers and experts who came together to help politicians to look at this in health, education, criminal justice, and the workplace. And we had, like you can see here, we had inquiry meetings in leather chairs in oak wooden paneled rooms, essentially talking about meditation. It was very groundbreaking. And we pulled this together into our findings from this inquiry into the Mindful Nation UK report, which you can find at our website on the mindfulnessinitiative.org. And we launched that report at an event that had 3 government ministers attend and speak about the importance of this kind of work, including the Secretary of State for Education, one of the most senior ministers in the country. And in this report, we had very sort of targeted and costed and sort of credible recommendations for how mindfulness can be better applied in health, education, workplace, and criminal justice, and particularly in health, where mindfulness actually has been available theoretically on the National Health Service for free in England and the United Kingdom since 2004. But for various reasons, it wasn't really that available. It was theoretically available, but not really accessible. And so we made various recommendations to how to unlock the potential. And most of those recommendations have now been acted upon by government. So yes, I might not use these slides. Haven't got really time to go into the detail of the other areas. Apart from maybe criminal justice, where we recommended that there needed to be a program of research and putting together a single conversation about mindfulness, which they found, through our work, they found was actually in 30 different prisons and probation services in the UK. And it was a complete surprise to them that this was happening, because it was kind of under the radar. And over the last few years, because of our work, they've pulled that together into one conversation and have paid for more research within prisons to look at how mindfulness can be helpful for prisoner well-being and potentially to keep them out of prison once they are released. So one of the politicians so firstly, if you go to our website and you click on our work on the bar there and click publications, and then click Mindful Nation UK report, you can find at the bottom there's the Spanish version of the document, kindly translated by a volunteer, and you'll be able to read all about our work in Spanish or in English. We also have lots of other documents here. There's one specifically about bringing mindfulness into the workplace, sharing it with your colleagues, as well as some more details about how politicians have talked about this in their own lives, and various other resources for innovators who use mindfulness training, etc. So one of the politicians we work with, who is very influential on the left, he said that he thinks mindfulness can act as a foundational proposition to a whole series of public policy interventions. And what he means by that is that there's something fundamental about mindfulness that means it just has so many different applications. And I'll come back to this later on with our most recent publication called Mindfulness Developing Agency in Urgent Times. But first, I'm going to have a look at the issue of belonging and loneliness, which is a really great a theme for this conference. So in the UK, we have this thing called the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, which is a very sort of publicized advice system to keep your health happy and flourishing. And one of the 5 ways to well-being, and this is sort of different from mindfulness, but very, very close. It's sort of it makes mindfulness an obvious thing to do. One of the 5 ways to well-being is taking notice of the world around you, taking notice of other people, and taking notice of what's going on inside you. And also there's also sort of being active and connecting with others. So you can see down there in the bottom left, and keeping learning as well. So mindfulness is something that you can learn throughout life, keeping you learning. Its outcome is specifically taking notice, but it also helps you to connect with others and engage with others, and therefore combating loneliness and helping with a sense of belonging. And some of the research into mindfulness supports this. There are research trials that are published, some of them recently, on things like mindfulness training and how it reduces loneliness and increases social contact. So what's the evidence saying for mindfulness and belonging? Well, firstly, there's quite a lot of evidence, both qualitative, so the way people talk about it, and also quantitative, so like using assessments and using numbers. So I think I might have forgotten to say that mindfulness is a capacity of mind, but it's trained, it's cultivated. You have to practice it best every day. but you learn it first on a course, and often these are over a number of weeks, and most often 8 weeks. And then once you finish the mindfulness training program, you then ideally have a daily practice. So whether it's 10, 20, 30 minutes, like brushing your teeth in the morning, you are looking after your mind and your heart by doing this practice every day and getting stronger and stronger at being able to attend to and be aware of what's going on in and around you. And research normally looks at these 8-week mindfulness courses and what happens when you've done one. And so what seems to be the case is that mindfulness training develops more satisfying relationships for all kinds of reasons. They've been looked at this in the workplace, and they've also looked at it in romantic relationships and like family and friends relationships. It also seems to reduce loneliness in the community generally. But there have been specific studies looking at how it reduces loneliness in students and older people. And one of the reasons for this is that, like I said, mindfulness isn't just training the attention, training the mind to be where you want it. It's also awareness, developing awareness of a particular type that's accepting and open, curious and kind. So this acceptance and openness is seen to be a facilitator for more social contact. We're more accepting of our difficult emotions or tendency to be shy and engage anyway. We move towards difficulty rather than run away from it. That's another important aspect of this training. And so you're more accepting of your own internal difficulties, more accepting of other people, and you're more open to new experiences and new people. There's also evidence, like I said before, the strongest evidence is around reduction in stress and anxiety and depression, and this has potential to particularly combat social anxiety. Loneliness is thought to be underpinned in part by maladaptive cognitive patterns. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have certain ways of thinking about ourselves, certain ways of thinking about others and our relationship to them, which have been developed over time, perhaps in relation to how we were brought up, or how our early relationships in school were, or whether we were bullied, or any kind of thing can create strategies or types of thinking which actually don't make us happy or successful. And one of the ways mindfulness works, particularly like combating depression, is that we start to see our thought patterns and we go, oh, there's this thought. I don't have to believe it. I get some distance. I'm aware of it, and I get some distance on that thought, and I can choose to respond to it differently, not following it and choosing a new strategy, like going and making new friendships. And mindfulness seems to underpin emotional intelligence, and that's a wide construct which includes within it increased self-awareness, increased emotion regulation, so our ability to feel our emotions, not get overwhelmed by them, and our ability to understand and perceive the emotions of others, empathy, and to respond to other people when they're in distress, compassion. So all of these things together tend to underpin better relationships and less isolation, less loneliness. And so this points to, I've talked about emotion regulation, I've talked about better memory, I've talked about empathy and compassion. All of this together we could see as being our this sort of mental health can also be talked about being mental wealth. And here a government report from over 10 years ago talked about this as mental capital. So we have financial capital, maybe social capital, like how much friendship, community capital you have. But also I'd like to suggest that you have mental capital individually, as an organization that you work in, or as a society. And it's important that things like mindfulness training actually develop our mental capital, which we as individuals and as societies that are knowledge-based or have office jobs in the majority require mental capital to flourish. I'm running a little bit short on time, but I'm going to say a couple of things now about how politicians see these capacities of compassion, of listening, etc., being helpful for politics itself. So here one member of the House of Lords says, what is it that mindfulness can bring into our political practice? Well, things like attentiveness, so awareness, curiosity, compassion, generosity, and groundedness. Again, almost like perspective taking, feeling a sense of proportion and balance. And what mindfulness teachers call responding, not reacting. And what that means is, rather than like through quick habit or just being angry and just suddenly losing yourself and reacting instinctively, instead we learn to respond more creatively, more calmly, and more aligned with what is important to us, rather than just because it's an evolutionary or a habitual response, reaction rather. This is a Dutch politician that I work with, and she says, mindfulness really enables me to stay in touch with what's most important to me, my own values. So really giving you a kind of a rudder or an anchor, and using mindfulness to be more aware, particularly through a body awareness of what is, is this the right thing, or what do I really want to do in this situation? And then you can act more in line with that. And finally, here a conservative, a right-wing member of our government, our parliament rather, who's part of the all-party parliamentary group on mindfulness that I clerk, which is the group that looks into public policy. And he says that there is a kind of connection, an affinity amongst those who have been through this mindfulness course, and a rather more considered approach to exchanges of differing views. Now, that means, in his words as well, that they are able to disagree better. It's not all like kissing and hugging and it being flower power and everyone's loving each other, but it's very good that they disagree, and they disagree strongly. But we can, through mindfulness, through responding, not reacting, through empathy, through compassion, politicians are saying that this can help them to do so more skillfully and with more civility. So there's probably questions. I mean, Britain is now most famous for Brexit. So you might be wondering how that relates. Some politicians are saying mindfulness is helping them to be better at their jobs and be more civil and kind. But on the other hand, Brexit looks like it's the opposite. So I can address that in the questions if you're interested. But one last thought to leave you with in my last minute. And that is that I think we've been working for 6 or 7 years on mindfulness in public policy and in politics. In the last year, we've done some more work, particularly on how mindfulness can help us in this age of what feels like crisis, of the climate crisis, of crisis in democracy, and the kind of threat of runaway technology. Now, mindfulness can do all these different things, but we've been spending time to try to think what is the most fundamental thing. And we think the most fundamental thing is that mindfulness helps us to develop agency. That is our capacity for intentional action. So I haven't got time to go into what that means in great detail, but basically it helps us to see, to perceive things more clearly, to make sense of what we see, to understand things better, and to act more intentionally in a more considered way by doing. And so I would encourage you to go to our website, to look at our publications, to check out this document called Mindfulness Developing Agency in Urgent Times, which is really what we're kind of aiming for in the kind of the biggest vision. And yeah, there it is on our website there. But I'll finish with that. Thank you very much. Gracias. It's been like I say, been a great pleasure. I'll go to questions now. Bye.
Yeah. Hello. Thanks to you, Jamie. It's been amazing. Thanks for giving us a glimpse of the large work you have been doing. There is not only one document, but a number of documents that can be shared. The audience is asking where to find them, and we were pointing them to your website to look for these publications. And some people are asking questions, and of course, I don't know if you're very attentive to Spanish politics, but some people are asking how you feel this could be applied in the Spanish Parliament. I don't know if you're following the news about us, but perhaps you have some ideas on how it could be introduced in other countries, this initiative.
I have not I've been so absorbed with kind of US and particularly in the last couple of months, and British politics. I'm not up to speed in terms of month by month. I have a broad idea of what's happening in Spain, and it's a picture repeated across democracies. And I'm still once again I'm hearing my voice back again through your computer. So maybe turn it down, or thank you. That's good.
Roberto can help us with that.
Oh, okay, thank you. We've now worked with about 30, 40 countries. So so since 2015, we published our Mindful Nation UK report. This got distributed around the world. And we were contacted by or put in touch with politicians and other kind of advocates in political systems around all these different countries. And we've now helped to establish mindfulness training in 9 or 10 other countries. So this has been very successful in France and in Denmark and in places like Iceland and lots of the Scandinavian countries, you won't be surprised to hear. And we've also been working in Canada and Sri Lanka and Hungary and some other more unusual places. And there have been some attempts to try and interest Spanish politicians, but that hasn't been one of the places it's really sort of taken up yet. Again, we were contacted by the Brazilian Senate, and we've had some interesting opportunities in Costa Rica and a few others in South America as well. So I say, we have, I've been invited to many of these parliaments. I've given presentations. I've helped to establish training. So really, I think we have so much evidence now that politicians like this. So many hundreds of politicians have taken these courses that we can go to the Spanish Parliament and say, look, it's worked elsewhere. There's evidence that this is a good leadership training that is being used in many companies around the world, particularly at senior levels. And so, yeah, I think it's time to try again. Yeah. Oh, now you're on mute, Anna. Sorry.
I can tell you that from the World Happiness Foundation, we'll try hard to bring it to Spain and to Spanish-speaking countries and to spread what you're doing. And I was wondering, for what you say, this sort of initiative takes time, right? So this is not a short-term project. And these people, politicians, usually are very busy people. How does this connect with time management for them?
That's a very good question. When mindfulness training was first sort of adapted from its more historical roots in some of the wisdom traditions, particularly from Asia, into a kind of Western medical context, which was started over 40 years ago now. It was primarily in like these quite long sessions of 2.5 hours for 8 weeks, with a whole day of silent practice, like in the middle of it. So you can imagine most politicians, at the very beginning at least, aren't able to do that. So the training programs, rather than 2.5 hours, they've been 1 hour and 15 minutes, and sometimes even shorter. And rather than inviting them to do mindfulness practice or meditation, by another word, for 45 minutes, they're invited to do it for 15 minutes, 10 minutes initially. Over time, however, they do build up. And over the last couple of years in Britain, at least in British Parliament, they've started every 6 months. They've been having retreat days, so a whole day of practice. People from different parties coming together for a day of silence and practice, and doing much longer sits. So start small and build up, basically, is the answer for people with busy lives wherever you are. That seems to be a good suggestion.
One more question I would like to make is how these parliamentary people, do they feel they do it for themselves or they do it for other people when they commit to this sort of program? It's a part of their service to the community. Do they view it from that point of view, or is just to make sure they are okay to continue doing their work? What are their ideas about why they should care for it and commit to it?
That's a great question, and I think that the normal pattern, whether you're a politician or whether you actually, this is the same for me, is that you start practicing for some kind of self-regulation benefit, and by that I mean I want to get something more under control. I want to develop something for myself, and that's fair enough. You start from normally a need. And for me, I wanted to concentrate better. I was struggling with concentration. For others, it's anxiety or sleep problems. And then it kind of like moves from being, okay, now I sleep better, I can concentrate. And then it's like, oh, actually, there's self-exploration often comes in at that point. Like I'm becoming more aware of myself and my mind and my heart. And actually, there's a lot to find out. So you move from self-regulation to self-exploration. And then after that, you get to self-transcendence, or you're doing it for reasons other than yourself, often to share it with others. And so yes, we are seeing that now, that people feeling like it makes them better at their jobs. They can listen better to people who come and speak to them, and that makes them a better representative, a better politician. But I think there's an opportunity to go in with that at the beginning. Yes, do this because you'll be less stressed. Do this because you'll be better at public speaking or something. But also do it because you're a politician and your job matters, and this is going to help you do it for the people.
Much. Very beautiful to see how they open to the world and to others through this. Really transformative. Jamie, thank you. Yes, we are happy. We are so happy that we can bring this to Spanish audiences, and we really do hope to be able to do something in Spain like what you have been doing, and great achievement for us to see.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you, Anna. Good luck with the rest of the weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.